Dagger on Mirage is interesting because of the new ambush skill it provides, but not only that, it provides another ranged power weapon option for Mesmers, which is great for single target damage, and this is a great addition to the Split Surge Mirage build for open world that normally uses a greatsword and sword, but the added mobility and dazes are not really needed when the dagger has range and dazes. So here's an update to the open world PvE Mirage build, which can do massive AoE damage with the greatsword ambush Split Surge for situations where there are many targets, and then swap to dagger for a more sustained damage to bosses or for CC. Let me remind you that I only show the DPS meter because some people will have a fit if I don't. But for those of us who know that arbitrary numbers compared to other arbitrary numbers out of context don't really mean anything unless you test it extensively and minimize the effect of variables. Test it and see for yourself. And also, this is an open world build, which means it's designed to provide a fun playstyle that is versatile for many different situations like solo exploration, meta events, or story. If you want the most optimal build for a specialized role in a raid comp that can provide you all of the boons and healing that you need, check out the raid builds on guildgen.com. Now that's out of the way, let's get into the actual build. I go for a mix of Marauder on the trinkets and Berserker on the armor. This build is very squishy, it relies on dodging to avoid damage, but if you do get hit, it's not as punishing if you have that extra vitality from some Marauders, but you do want to be going for the most damage as possible, because ideally you won't get hit at all by using your distortion and your dodges. Now, the rune of surging is because you need some movement speed as a Mirage. There's not really many options to get swiftness, so the movement speed is really nice, especially since we're not using sword anymore, which is a loss in mobility. And the extra boon duration is nice because we want to upkeep our fury and might uptime, and that'll give us a lot more damage. Then for the greatsword, I take a sigil of energy and force. You can also put a sigil of bloodlust there instead of force, but you need the energy sigil because dodges equal more survivability and more ambushes, which we'll get into later, which are going to give you more damage as well. Then on the dagger and sword, I take energy and celerity. Celerity is going to give you some quickness whenever you disable an enemy, and we've got a lot of disables, and we're going to get a lot of quickness uptime on this build as well. I go for the relic of evasion because it gives you vigor whenever you evade an attack, and this creates a loop of giving you more dodges to therefore be able to dodge more, and that gives you ambushes, which in general just works out for the playstyle. But you can go for the relic of adventure if you're not in a situation where enemies are actually going to trigger your evade, because you have to actually evade something, not just dodge, to get that vigor. So adventure would give you it on heal skill, which is a little bit more reliable. Also, you're going to want the bowl of Orient truffle and meat stew food, because that will give you more dodges, and therefore all of the ambushes are going to happen a lot more, allowing you to spam out more damage. For traits, I go for dueling and domination. Take Phantasmal Fury for extra crit chance on your phantasms, and Fencer's Finesse for a ferocity buff whenever your sword attacks hit. You've only got the offhand sword on your dagger sword set, but this is still better than the other options in most cases, though if you're in a situation where there's a lot of projectiles, Evasive Mirror could be a great defensive option. Then I take Deceptive Evasion, which is always going to be better than Superiority Complex in an open world build, because whenever you swap targets, you're going to have to get your clones up again, and the ramp up time is going to suffer if you have to sit there and summon all of your clones again. So this helps you to get your clones up, and your burst damage is going to be much higher as a result. And of course, when your clones are getting killed by mobs because they're attacking you, you want to keep generating those clones to be able to tank for you and to prevent you from being attacked. Then in Domination, take the Bountiful Blades trait for more damage on your greatsword. Whenever you daze an enemy, you will inflict vulnerability. Now our dagger ambush is going to give a lot of dazes, so getting 25 vulnerability on the target is going to be really easy, and that's going to give us more damage per vulnerability stack. So 25 stacks of vulnerability is very easy to get, and so we're going to get more like 37% extra damage to targets with 25 vulnerability on them. I also take Furious Interruption because you gain quickness whenever you interrupt a foe, and we have tons of dazes that are going to also randomly trigger interrupts here and there. And then we're going to take Vicious Expression, which removes boons from targets whenever you disable them, and since we have so many CCs from the daze on our ambush, targets that have boons are going to be removed very fast, and you'll do more damage when they have no boons on them. Then in Mirage, we want to take Renewing Oasis because this is going to give us a little bit more sustain. The build is very squishy and low sustain, so this is going to help us out a little bit. And then go for Mirage Mantle. This is going to make your Greatsword Ambush skill do 25% more damage, and your Dagger Ambush apply more vulnerability. But generally we have enough vulnerability, so it's mostly for Greatsword. If you're not really into Greatsword, you can go for the Desert Distortion trait, which is going to give you more ambushes when you use your Distortion. So that is a good option there as well. Then we take Infinite Horizon, which is basically the main idea of this build. Whenever you dodge or gain Mirage Cloak by getting a Mirage Mirror, all of your clones will also do their ambushes. And this adds up a lot of damage, especially when you're in AoE situations and all of your attacks from your Greatsword ambush hit multiple targets and giving you might. Or when you're single targeting a boss with your dagger ambushes, you're going to break that break bar really fast because of all the dazes going in. So it's really effective for CC. So the flow of the build is basically you want to use your clone generating abilities. So Sword 5 and Dagger 2 will give you a clone, because the Phantasm will turn into a clone as well. And then you want to dodge, that'll give you your third clone. Press your 1 skill, and that's going to ambush. Use your 1 skill as much as possible when you've got these 3 clones up, and dodge. So you're just pressing dodge and 1 when you've got all these clones up. You can use your F1 to shatter, which will do a decent amount of burst damage, but it means that you're going to lose all of your ambushes from those clones if you start dodging. So generally you want to use your F1 only right before you're about to spawn more clones, and that will allow you to get a little bit more burst damage from that mind rack. You've got other ways to dodge as well with the illusionary ambush, so you can get all of your clones up and then use Mimic, which can allow you to do a double illusionary ambush, and this will just give you more ambushes and therefore more damage. Say for example, if you're out of dodges and you just want an extra dodge, it's pretty nice, but it also kind of displaces you and allows you to get out of dangerous situations sometimes with the random port. So essentially just spam your auto attack with the dodges and ambush, and then when you run out of skills to use on your dagger and sword set and you're out of energy, you swap. That gives you extra energy, and then from there you can also use your F1 because you're going to spawn more clones with your Greatsword 4 and 2, and then you can dodge again and use the Greatsword ambush. Now on single target, Greatsword is not going to be as effective as Dagger, but in AoE situations, it's going to be extremely good because every one of these beams pierces and it will shoot out 3 beams. So it's possible that 3 beams pierce 3 targets, essentially doing 9 times as much damage. So it's really effective in those AoE situations. So basically use the Greatsword in AoE situations and the dagger and sword in single target situations, or just swap between them when you run out of cooldowns. I like to use the blink utility skill because it's a stun break that's pretty low cooldown, and it is also a really long range port, which is going to make up for the fact that this build doesn't have that much mobility on it. You can also mimic blink for really long range ports, which can be kind of fun. So you can either go for that, or you can go for like Sand Through Glass, which will give you a stun break as well, but it will also give you a Mirage Mirror, and Mirage Mirrors, when you walk through them, count as dodging, and therefore you can use your ambush right after. So when you use your Sand Through Glass skill and your illusionary ambush, those will give you dodges, and also your heal skill, False Oasis, will also create a Mirage Mirror that you can use. So rotating through your actual dodges, your utility skills, and using those to create ambushes in between your weapon skills is essentially how the build works. But if you like this content, then please subscribe and like the video. Check out the description of this video for the full build link, because sometimes it becomes outdated and the updated version will always be there. So with that being said, I'll see you all next time. Enjoy the build and have fun.